Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I've always wanted to say that. So, during my time as a college student, I've taken a variety of different paths. I studied abroad in Milan, I worked at Procter & Gamble, volunteered through the VLCCE, explored Boston, met incredible people, and said yes to opportunities like this one that I never thought I would have when I first got here 4 years ago. Somewhere along the way, I discovered something about myself. I love solving problems. Crazy, right? I'm that girl who will have a plan and will follow it through to the tiniest of details. And that's what led me to study experience design and psychology here at Bentley. Because of that, I spent a lot of time thinking about how people make decisions. I wanted to learn more about what makes people tick, what makes people make those daily decisions that we don't even think about. But if I'm being honest, the person I learned the most about was myself. For a long time, I was terrified of making the wrong choice, the wrong opportunity, the wrong direction, the wrong career path. And if you're in any transitional period, or have been, you will understand this feeling. But if you're in college, especially towards graduation, you've probably had this exact conversation recently. People start coming up to you like a broken record. They'll come up and say, "So, what are you doing after graduation?" Suddenly, panic. You're supposed to have a job lined up, a 5-year plan, something. And if you don't have that, or if you're questioning the one that you already did, it can seem like you're already being left behind. I remember having this feeling when I was scrolling through jobs, looking at locations, companies, titles, trying to imagine which decision would ultimately determine the rest of my life. Sounds silly, but it's exactly how I was feeling. The pressure that comes with that is heavy, because somewhere along the way, many of us start believing that life has no undo button. That once we choose something, we're stuck with it. And that belief creates fear. But studying experience design has changed the way I think about that. Because in design, we spend a lot of time thinking about mistakes, not trying to avoid them, but expecting them. Because trust me, people will use your products in ways that you would never expect them to. One day, a story comes up where I was running a usability test on a prototype that I had been working on. At first, everything looked normal. The participant came in and sat down to create the task that I asked them to do. They clicked around, explored different pages, and just overall was participating like normal. And then suddenly, they stopped. There were a few aggressive clicks, exasperated sighs, and then they said, "This is so frustrating." So I asked what was wrong. They said that they felt stuck, that they weren't sure if they clicked the wrong thing, but they couldn't go back because there was a pop-up screen that wouldn't close. There was no back button, no exit, no way out. They just felt trapped. And when people feel trapped, something shifts. They stop exploring, stop experimenting. Sometimes they just stop entirely. So we fixed the problem. We add a clear back button. We make sure that the pop-up was closable. We gave users a way to undo their mistakes. So then the next person comes in and they test the prototype, and the difference was immediate. They clicked around, they made mistakes, but they didn't mind because they knew that they could go back. That moment stayed with me long after the class ended because it taught me something about my own life. As you see, in design, we build back buttons on purpose. We know back buttons create confidence. They tell the user, "Hey, you can explore here, you can try things, and you won't get stuck here." But somewhere along the way, many of us forget this own idea when it comes to our own lives. Because we treat our decisions like permanent contracts. We think that the first job we take determines our entire career. We think that the first path we choose determines everything. If we step in the wrong direction, we'll fall behind everyone else. But life is not permanent like that. Your story is not written in permanent ink. It's written in pencil. You can erase, you can revise, you can redraw the path. What I realized is this. Most of the fear we feel isn't about making the wrong decision. It's about believing that we can't recover from it. We're feeling stuck, and that belief can keep us from moving at all. I felt that recently when applying to jobs, looking at different roles, industries, cities, trying to predict the future like I had a crystal ball, trying to make the right choice. But the more I thought about design, the more I realized something simple. When you hit the back button on a website, you're not failing, you're navigating. You're learning where you don't want to go so you can figure out where you do want to go. Life works the same way. Trying something and realizing it's not for you isn't failure. Changing directions isn't failure. Outgrowing a plan you once believed in isn't failure. It's information. If you look at almost anyone you admire, their path probably wasn't straight. They pivoted, they changed things, they looked at what their story was. But if you look at them, their path probably makes sense. But in the time, it probably felt just as confusing as it did when they were living it, just like ours. Once I started thinking about this, something shifted. Instead of asking myself, what if this is the wrong decision? I started asking myself, what happens if I try? And that small change can make fear a whole less powerful. Because when you know you can change directions, you become more willing to explore, more willing to take risks, more willing to move forward even when you're unsure. And that's really the idea I want to leave with you today. The reason fear stops so many of us isn't because we're incapable. It's because we think we're stuck. But life isn't permanent. The most powerful feature in any system isn't the submit button. It's the undo button. And once you realize you have one, fear stops feeling like a wall and it starts feeling like a doorway you have to go through. So take that step. If you're worried that to try something new because you're worried that it might be the wrong move, remember this. Moving forward doesn't mean committing forever. It just means being brave enough to click and trusting that if you need to, you can always hit undo. Thank you.